My grandfather always talked about going back to Europe and seeing these places, and I had always hoped that he would go with me on this trip. After my grandfather passed, I decided to fly across the Atlantic and retrace his harrowing journey through all 5 major European campaigns. He served as a Sherman tank driver in the 3rd Armored Division from the initial landings in Normandy to the bloody end of the war. There's a quote by Maya Angelou, who I revere, and she said, history, despite its wretched pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. And I think that's a point of all this, is that not looking at who to blame. It's generation after generation we commit the same ridiculousness. I was in a infantry museum. We went to the infantry museum, my grandfather and my dad, and we were walking through, and it's just like today. Well, there's the statues, the mannequins with the clothes on and everything else. So it had World War I, Spanish-American War, and the World War II, and Vietnam. And my dad just turned to my grandfather and said, "We don't learn a damn thing, do we, Dad?" And my grandfather just went, like, "No, just sure don't seem like it, I don't know. People don't learn from anything, and I'm probably not going to change that, but at least I could tell the story. I would think, but
The great part of it is that his grandfather was able to sort of see it come together at the end of his life, and see this both sort of a tribute and a great history to himself. So and an act of love on the part of a grandson for a grandfather. And it's that you can't, tough to look away from that part of it.
we are in Insigne sur Mer. Insigne by the sea. And this will be the first leg of the journey.
Most Americans, when they think of World War II, they think of the American army sweeping across Europe from west to east, and the Germans, while putting up a fight, were doomed to lose. And that was not true. Generally, the Germans had better equipment. They were extremely well trained, that the German tanks were far superior to the American Sherman tanks. Really, you could count on one hand the pieces of equipment that the US Army had that were really superior than what the Germans had. The Sherman tank is probably Exhibit A of the inferior American equipment in World War II. Those tankers, I don't know how they made it. I don't know how the ones who survived did survive. And of course, a lot of them didn't survive.
We saw the tanks get destroyed and all the infantry killed on the back, and my grandfather panicked. Even after being all the combat that he was in all the campaigns before this, he still got scared.
You can say everything you want about this patriotism and everything else, but boy, when your life is in stake, you think about your life.
The fact that Louch saw probably tens of thousands of dead, the aftermath of so many of these horrific battles, still came home, was able to raise a family, and it's something that you don't really see in a lot of the Hollywood movies today. The battles happen, credits roll, but you don't see that these things, they stick with the soldiers and the Marines for the rest of their lives.
Early on, when I discovered that the 3rd Armored had suffered more casualties, men and equipment, than any other armored division, and actually took a look at the numbers in the armored regiments and also in the armored infantry. It's astounding to me that anyone could have started at the beginning and been in the campaigns, even with the vagaries of where you are on the battlefield. The fact that Louch survived without a scratch from beginning all the way to the end is why I think some people get religion who you never would have thought would. It's just beyond any calculation of the odds.